Hey, it's Huck. And I'm afraid today's message is, heartbreaking for me. And I'm going to try to keep this a little short. This is Wednesday. It's about a little afternoon. And the night before last, Monday, sometime around 8 o'clock or so in the evening, my brother, my only remaining sibling, passed away. He was at home with his wife and their daughter, and apparently had a heart attack as he was getting into bed. And his wife was there in the room, and she knew immediately that this was bad, and they called 911, and the paramedics were near the neighborhood, as it turned out, so they did get there, relatively quickly, and were commencing with, some CPR, and she was under the impression that they did get his heart started as they were getting him into the ambulance or whatever, but I don't know if he was unable to make it, by the time they actually got into the hospital, probably a good, 10 or 15 miles away. At any rate, I think they pronounced him dead at the hospital. My brother, his name was Norman, and he was named after my father. And he was the firstborn. He's the only brother I had. He was born just a little more than 3 years before me. It would have been 1953 in April. And I came along in June, 3 years later. And Norm was a protector. He was I think he had a self-image of himself as being, a problem solver, a fixer, if you will. He was very well liked, very well respected. He never really had a bad thing to say about anybody. If he didn't like you or if he didn't have a good opinion of you, he normally kept it to himself. He was, many would probably describe my brother as a workaholic, if you will. He had to retire. He was forced into retirement, sort of like me. He had a number of little health issues, nagging health issues, but the real, the real thing that changed his life was he was like he was working for a dialysis clinic group. He was a certified technician, and he was like an executive with the company. He went around and was in charge of the training and overseeing all the other technicians at various clinics in the region. And so he traveled a bit, throughout Ohio and western Pennsylvania, and I don't know exactly what all his region was, but no, he was on the road quite a bit. At any rate, he was at one of these facilities up in the Cleveland area, or Streetsboro or somewhere, and I think it was up in the Cleveland area where he had an accident. He had had a seizure of some sort and fell off of a loading platform, a good, 5 or 6 feet to the ground, and seriously got hurt. He had back problems ever since, but he also got some neurological damage from that. Nothing, that hampered him cognitively in any way. But, from that point on, he had a number of issues with his health. And he eventually had to go on disability. He never did really fully recover from all of that. And I know he had a number of operations on his back. It was in a lot of pain a lot of the time. And he was very, very. You will rarely see a family as close knit as he and his wife and his daughter. And um, he found out a week or so before this happened, his death, that his life insurance company, I guess he had life insurance with Allstate, and had this life insurance policy on him and his wife really since the time they were married. This was my brother's second marriage. He had a son with his first wife, and then, but he'd been married now to his second wife for I'm gonna say it was going on 40 years, probably just shy of 40 years, and at any rate, and so they've had life insurance on the both of them since then. Well, I don't know exactly what the circumstances were, but apparently they had missed a payment. And when they discovered that they had missed a payment to their life insurance policy, they contacted Allstate to see what they needed to do to, address that, and they were dropped. I think they were told that after a certain period of time they would have to resubmit, be reevaluated, and they would be and they wouldn't be accepted anymore because they both had significant health preconditions, if you will. I think she had diabetes, and he, of course, with his health issues. So anyway, I have urged his wife that she probably needs to consult an attorney to see whether or not, in fact, they gave the full 30 days grace period, which I think is required on such things, before she was notified that the policy would just be canceled, and so I don't know. At any rate, I have been so fortunate over these many years now and months of getting some really substantial financial assistance myself. There's no way that I'd be able to keep up with all the medical situations I've had to deal with, whether it be just my medications or the many doctor's visits I've gone to, certainly the hospitalizations and the ambulance. At any rate, I continue to get that support. Now, and in the meantime, as I've tried to be very transparent about that, I have tried to put a little bit of money aside for some other bigger projects, and as I get enough money accumulated, then I can do something, and that's what's allowed me to get this oxygen concentrator. In the meantime, I've been putting a little bit of money aside in the hopes that I could tackle some other significant, bigger priced needs, if you will. I had to dip substantially into that this week. Gigi, no. Gigi, no. I had to give my brother's wife some money to help her deal with the most immediate expenses that are coming up here. I don't think there's going to be a memorial service or a funeral or anything at this time, as it turns out. But they did need to take care of the body, and so I gave her some money to deal with that, and that comes out of a fund that I was actually had been setting aside for some time and trying to add to deal with my own ultimate funeral arrangements or whatever, and my parents, and in other words, I need to buy cemetery plots, and I wanted to get that taken care of so that I have a little bit of life insurance. I'm still trying to pay on, to pay off the loan that I took out on that. But there's enough money, I'm hoping, to take care of, some of that for me, but not my parents. So anyway, I had to dip into most of that fund to pay my my sister-in-law, so that at least the immediate needs are taken. And the good news for them, unlike me, is that they only have like one more house payment to make, and then their house will be paid off. And so that will help my sister-in-law. I think in the future here, she's still working, and she's probably I think a year or two older than me. So I don't know at what point she's going to be going on disability. Or on Social Security or whatever. But I know she has some questions about. My brother had a Social Security disability check still coming in another week, and she didn't know whether that was now still going to come or not. And frankly, I don't know whether or not she'll get that, one final check or not. I know I told her she'll get a death benefit check of about $255, I think. And other than that, I really didn't know the answer to that. I know in the case that she should go on Social Security herself, she will probably at that point get the greater of the amounts of whatever my brother was collecting and what she was collecting. But how that works, while she continues to work, and I don't know what her income is, what, if anything, she would get from my brother's Social Security, frankly, I don't know. And I'm guessing that if she earns in excess of what he was getting, I guess my guess would be that she wouldn't get anything, but I don't know the answer to that. There are people I'm sure she can talk to that will give her those answers. Anyway, while all of this has been going on here in the last couple of days, and I have found myself, it's been hard. It's been very difficult for me because this is the last surviving member of my family. I had one brother, a mother and a father, and so my mind has been flooded with, memories of things that I've done with my brother over the years, and particularly our childhood. We grew up, we shared a bedroom for the first, I want to say, 8 or 9 years. I think by the time he was probably 11 or 12, he got his own bedroom. And but I can remember, and I'm fortunate that I have a number of photos to jog my memory of some of these things. But I can remember, so many camping trips. We used to go camping quite a bit, for at least several weekends every summer, and at least a 1 or 2 week period on top of that when my dad would take his vacations. We would go up to a local lake, Pymatuming, for the long vacation, and we would go to places called Ridge Lake, or there was a place called Leisure Lake, and they had like a little swimming lake and some other festivities, hay rides, and but it was just we loved camping as a family. We had a big tent, for a number of years, and eventually we bought a very, very, very small trailer that I don't know, maybe 15-footer, maybe, if that. I can remember taking that on a few trips. By this time, my brother was a teenager. I was probably close to being a teenager, like 13 myself. And I can remember we took it up to Cedar Point area, Sandusky, Ohio, one summer, and we got caught in a big tornado one evening. It came in at about 4 o'clock in the evening, and we kept, shifting from the trailer, back into the car, and this thing was like on a circular path. It was right near the edge of Lake Erie, and this particular, I think it was a Category 4 or 3 tornado, but it was what was odd about it was like it circled. It came down, through that area, and it went through a few towns a little south of Sandusky, and then it circled back around, and then another one hit again a little bit later into the evening. And so there was about 6 hours of just chaos and no small amount of panic. And this is the second time I've been. That's the first of 2 times up there that I had been caught in a tornado while in that area. I could remember my brother and I when we were sharing our bedroom as young children. We used to play a silly game when we were quite young called I See Something. And, you would lie awake at night with the lights out, and you were supposed to be going to sleep, probably a school night. And I think the game was basically I see something, and then you would begin to describe it. It's green with brown stripes. And then the other person would have to guess what it is that you were describing. And of course, you were usually making those descriptions from memory because it was too dark to actually see them clearly. Anyway, I have, so it was so many memories come flooding back of, my, adventures with my brother. And it's hard. It really hasn't hit me yet that he's gone. And, inevitably you start thinking of all the things you should have asked him, all the things you should have discussed, all the times subjects on which you should have picked his brain. And now it's too late. And I know I could kick myself now. Same thing with, my grandparents, things I wish I would have asked them, involving, like our family tree or whatever. And, or my mom or my dad, it's questions I should have asked and knowledge I should have gained. Probably things that they once told me and I just, wasn't taking that as seriously as I should have. Wasn't paying attention. And inevitably, I think that's one of the hardest things is that, every time someone you love passes away, there's so much that goes with them that you can never retrieve. Memories that you can only scratch the surface of, and I, Normie would know that, and now it's too late. You'll never know. You can't. I'm going to miss my brother terribly. He was always my big brother, and if I was ever in a, there were so many things that. He would be there if it was possible at all. He wasn't able to help me financially, and I didn't ask him, often to do that. He had his own, issues and problems to deal with and financial difficulties. He had some health issues with, both his son, who died in his 30s, and he had ongoing situations that he had to deal with his daughter, who in her 30s now, and remains living at home and has never been able to work at a job or whatever. And so they had their own challenges, there's no question. But when I needed him to be there for me when I needed somebody to take care of my dog for a few days while I was in the hospital or while I was going away. Or, there were things I could always depend on him for, him and his family. And I think that'll probably continue to be true with his wife and daughter. I know right now I've been kind of paranoid with all of the coronavirus thing going around and just starting to come into Ohio apparently. And of course they're giving you these news reports. I think I understand the threat this would be to someone like me with, the lung illness that I have. I would probably be at extreme risk if I were to get this. It probably wouldn't be something I could survive. I've been worried quite a bit about, just contracting, the common cold. I mean, even the normal strains of flu that are going around are quite serious for me. Could be life-threatening, in fact. So this is, the more I hear things like, well, the majority of Americans probably will get this at some point, if not this year, next year, and things like that. Well, that's a real concern for me, obviously. So I know I've been trying to use my head and be a lot more careful and maybe do quite a few less things than maybe that I've been in the past a little too cavalier about. I know yesterday I went out and with my friend Dustin and bought a number of groceries, far more than I normally would purchase for just myself. In fact, this is probably the most I've spent on groceries, since my mom passed away almost 7 years ago. I spent over $100 on groceries. I never do that. But I wanted to stock up on, some soups and some, other medicines and things that I would need in the event that there starts being news reports of, this particular illness or whatever turning up, locally. And so that I wouldn't have to, that maybe I could hunker down for a few weeks without having to leave the house to get anything more than maybe milk or bread. And right now I'm not, too overly concerned about doing things, but I am going to make an effort to, avoid, crowded situations and things like that. So there will be a number of things where I don't want to find myself, we've had quite a bit of flu around here, and so that's kind of kept me anyway from doing, just being a little bit more careful. I've been washing my hands thoroughly, every time I go out, I come home and it's one of the first things I do is, I make sure I wash my hands for a good 20 or 30 seconds thoroughly and wash my face. And, I bought some time ago when I was contemplating going somewhere here a few months ago, I bought a package of antiviral masks, like surgical masks that my lung doctor had actually told me I should consider if I was going to, go anywhere and, go on a trip or something like that. And so I bought them, but I haven't had any occasion to really use them as it turned out because I didn't go, and I don't have any immediate plans certainly of doing anything like that. I'm hoping that by May or so, a lot of this will, start dying out, and there'll be much fewer, much lower risk of that kind of thing being around. And at least typically in the summer, the viruses tend to drop off to a very small number, and then they resurface again, usually in September or October or whatever in the fall. And so we'll have to see what happens here, but I want to be prepared. Anyway, that's it for today. I just wanted to let you know this has been a very bad week here. And like I said, I don't know that it's entirely registered with me yet. I don't know that I've really felt the full brunt of this loss. Um, I know I feel it at night because I've had difficulty sleeping, and like I say, you start you start focusing on old times and memories and things like that, and um, they keep you awake at night, I guess. But at any rate, I right now my biggest concern is for my sister-in-law and my niece, uh, and like I say, I've been so fortunate to be able to receive the support that I've received, as I've needed it, and to help me. One of the things I'm just so grateful for is that not only have I been able to pay off a lot of my bills and continue to pay down and pay off the others. It's taken this weight off of my shoulders, this tremendous amount of stress that I think a lot of people today really have to deal with. I have no doubt that my brother died suddenly of a heart attack, and I have a feeling that I know he was stressed out over the political situation in this country right now with the leadership that we have. And I know his wife had told me just a few weeks ago that she had never seen, my brother was never the type to really talk about politics much, but in recent weeks, I guess, he had been complaining to her, about how angry he was about, Mitch McConnell and some of the things that he was not doing, and and of course, Trump himself and some of the things he was doing, and she actually made the comment to me, and this was just a month ago or so, that as she said to me, I've never seen him like this. I mean, I'm worried about him. I have no doubt that this has actually contributed to the stress that he was under, along with so many other things, going on with his health and otherwise. And so I wonder how much of that, may have also added, contributed to what happened to my brother. And I have been so, blessed that because I have been receiving this the support that I've received, that at least financially, I've not been under any immediate financial stress. And you're always worried about, well, this could stop at any time, and things can change pretty quickly, but I've not faced that. And and like I say, it has been I don't know how else to put it. It's just it's like a miracle. It's a blessing. It's I can't even express how grateful I am that that's at least one burden I haven't had really to deal with. And I think for many people that's one of life's greatest burdens. Well, I know it is, because I know I've dealt with it before, and it's and so I'm fairly certain it had a big impact on my brother. And but of course, my brother never opened up about things, and so he rarely, if anything was eaten away at him or whatever, he kept it to himself. That was kind of, in many ways, he was the opposite of me, personality-wise, I guess. But I'm going to miss my brother anyway. Keep me in your thoughts, and keep his family in your thoughts, and I appreciate that. Thank you for watching. I'm going to try to post something maybe next week about the state of the Democratic race for president, it seems like, for all intents and purposes at this point, that Biden is going to be the inevitable nominee. It looks like a clear majority of Democrats and voters have decided they want this over, and they want to rally behind Biden. And I think the writing is on the wall for that. But I will have a lot more to say on all of that in an upcoming video, and I hope you'll tune into that when I get around to posting it. This has been way too long, and this coming from someone who posts things way too long as a matter of habit. But I thank you for being there. One of the things, and maybe one of the reasons why I continue to make videos as I do, is, not just to get my, opinions out there for what they may be worth, but, just, I live alone now, and and I have a few friends that I see from time to time, at least I see them regularly. But it's different than having someone here that you're, really close to, and someone that you can share your feelings with and your thoughts with. And so YouTube, I think, serve that really important purpose for me, in that it allows me to get things off my chest. It allows me to, share my thoughts and my feelings and my, at times, my anger, at times my regrets, whatever it is. You need that sounding board. You need that, in my case, you fulfill that. YouTube fulfills that need that otherwise is this big emptiness, and so I very much value that. And it's one of the reasons why I don't do the entertainment videos like I used to do, is because YouTube has become a different type of outlet for me now. Because that's what I've needed now. I've needed a different type of outlet, rather than, just a mere creative expression. So, at any rate, more on that later. I've gone on long enough, but again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again.